Hello, I'm David Kerr, and welcome back. Rappahannock Institute is having a very enjoyable conversation with P.J. Thornburg, a representative for the Hillary Clinton for President campaign, speaking not as an official spokesman, but a long record of expertise on the Clinton campaign and an unusually deep background in national security. We're very fortunate to have him with us today. I'm going to ask a question that takes a little off national security. And that's a problem that bothers a lot of people in this country, is the economy. And not just necessarily growth in GDP, but problems with the middle class, problems with keeping up, problems with getting kids through school. It's getting a little harder to be in the middle class if you're kind of on the lower end of it. And a lot of people feel very jeopardized by the structure of the economy and the changes in the economy. Your view on that, how do you think Secretary Clinton interprets it?
I have read her position papers like I'm hoping the rest of us are reading. And she has expressed and she has articulated in those position papers very detailed plans. Secretary or the Chief of Staff of the Army, Carl Bono, once made the comment that hope is not a method. Give me a detailed plan. And Hillary has detailed plans. Her plans for the economy are well thought out and affordable. They can be achieved. They're not going to come on the backs of the middle class. They're going to come through working across the aisle, working with the other parties, and getting things accomplished. She has a near-term focus on taking care of issues today, which is through various tax cuts and various employment programs and expanding the economy. She has long-term goals and long-term accomplishments, which are based on taking the corporate America to task and taking the financial side of the house, the Wall Street side of the house, and holding them accountable and making them responsible. So I think she has all the elements that are needed for a real detailed plan, as our esteemed Chief of Staff of the Army both said, Carl Bono and General Gordon Sullivan, who wrote a book on Hope is Not a Method.
I appreciate that. Very good answer, sir. The Affordable Care Act, as it's properly titled, Obamacare, as it's been named, has sort of unified opposition on the Republican side. You can't run for president unless you're opposed to it. Right. Secretary Clinton, of course, I think it's safe to say, supports the Affordable Care Act. Do you think she would be, as we move a few years into the future, would want to see some changes based on experience?
Well, I think she's articulated that extremely well. I mean, if you look at the challenges that were facing this country when the Affordable Care Act was passed, they were, that was a major accomplishment. It was a major significant accomplishment. And to allow someone to take it down and either start all over or go back to ground zero, it just doesn't add up and it doesn't focus well. The other thing that she has done is to identify that, yes, indeed, the Affordable Care Act is a good start, but it is just a start. There are things that need to be done to fix it, to improve it, and to make it work for everybody across the board. Finally, in regard to health care, one of the most important things for me as a veteran and a user of veteran services is that she recognizes that the veterans who need care, medical care, face a different set of issues than normal America. And those issues aren't caused by something they did. It was caused by something happened to them in support of this nation's freedom and independence and stability.
Well, that leads me to one question I was actually going to hold for a little bit, but you offered such a good segue into it, I have to ask it. and I think one you're particularly qualified to answer. How will she do as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces?
Well, I will go back and say again, she has the ability to make decisions. And that is key for a commander-in-chief. She was in the room assisting with the Obama decision to go after Osama bin Laden, and she supported that. She is willing and able and capable of knowing what the issues are and knowing what the risks are, and recognizing that whenever she does make those decisions, she does put America's soldiers and sailors and airmen and servicemen in harm's way. And it's not that she looks forward to doing that. That's why the adoption of smart power is such an important feature in her platform. And I think it will behoove her as the commander-in-chief to be able to make those kinds of decisions.
And before we have about 2 minutes left. I have to give you a minute to frame your perspective on Secretary Clinton at the very end. Veterans care has been a big concern, particularly since the wind down of the Afghan and Iraq wars, which in many respects really haven't completely wound down. Right. Is she committed to veterans health care?
Absolutely, and I think you would have seen that in her service as a senator, and in the acts that she actually sponsored and got passed the 2006. Actual act, but she worked with, again, working across the aisle, she worked with the other legislators to pass some very good legislation on veterans' health care benefits. And she fights now for taking care of the military and the veterans' families and their futures. She knows the challenges, and from having been the First Lady and having seen firsthand the results of decisions to put people in harm's way, she knows the risks of not taking care of them when they come home.
Well, we have about 30 seconds, and you just tell our audience why they should support Secretary Clinton.
Yeah, we live in a very dangerous world. Let's make no mistake about it. I know that this primary election is focused more on non-national security issues, but we do need at the end of the day to recognize and realize that it is a very dangerous world we live in. And quite often we forget that the world of 20 years ago, 30 years ago, where we had known enemies, we had known capabilities and what their capabilities were, life was a little bit easier. It was a little more reasonable to be able to plan and prepare for those kinds of enemies. Secretary Clinton discovered in her work as the secretary that this is a different world. She is the best and most prepared leader and candidate to be the next commander-in-chief and to lead the free world in taking on ISIS and other terrorists and other threats to this great country. And that's primarily why I support her. I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a citizen of this country. And they are my primary concerns, and the best way to take care of that is through a strong national defense.
Colonel, we want to thank you very much for being on Rappahannock Issues this week and doing a brilliant job of explaining the Clinton campaign and your reasons for supporting her. Appreciate it a lot, and thanks for participating in our series.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And don't forget, we're on every week, so tune in. Rappahannock Issues.